You told my colleague Steve Paikin that your party in the last election veered too far from class-based to identity politics. This week, I think arguably the biggest headline out of the official launch of the leadership race was that rule I mentioned in the introduction, that basically the requirement that at least 50% of the total required signatures must be from members who do not identify as a cis man. I understand the motivation. I think I would assume behind that would be to be more inclusive. But do you get how that headline landed? The impression left really is one where identity politics still do rule.
Yeah, and I don't share that sort of line from the media on that, because there's a difference between identity politics and inclusion.
The NDP is playing identity politics, and we need to talk about it. Welcome back to the Freedom Pines podcast. I'm your host, Jamie A.B. This is where we debrief and discuss pop culture, internet culture, and politics from an independent perspective. And if that interests you, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let's get into today's video. Now, here's the thing. This is going to be a bit of a mini rant because I was very much an NDP. I voted NDP my whole life, okay? Never voted Liberal. I could see right through Justin Trudeau right from the beginning, so I will say that about myself, that I knew that man was a massive Nepo baby and pretty much was only in the spot he was in because of his dad. I was not blind to that, and I did not agree with it, so I've never voted Liberal. I did vote NDP, probably Green. I know, please don't judge me, okay? I didn't like Tom Leclerc, and I didn't like Liberals, and I didn't like the Conservative candidate, and that's what I voted for, okay? Now I know you can throw your vote. Back then I didn't know. That's the only reason why I would have voted for Green. But this identity politics stuff, this is exactly why I would never be on the left again. They need to stop this nonsense where they judge people based upon their disability, their sexual orientation, their skin color. We got to cut this out. We got to stop pointing out these things about us that don't define us. My disabilities do not define who I am. My sexuality does not define who I am. The things that I do and the actions that I take and how kind I am to people, the things I put out on the internet, what kind of a mother, what kind of a wife, all of those things matter. My ADHD, my sexuality should have nothing to do, it is actually none of your business, by the way, NDP candidates, okay? We should not be defining people by their disabilities. You should not go to a house. You should not feel comfortable with going to a house and a white man opening the door, knowing that you have too many white, straight men signatures, and having to ask that person, well, hold on, you can sign this if you are gay, trans, or disabled. Do you have any of those issues? Things that identify you as a minority, because then you could sign it. Can you imagine that guy is gay or has a disability? Okay, and he's got to be like, oh, so I'm only allowed to sign this because I'm disabled or because I'm gay? Can you imagine asking someone that? Because that is a reality, okay? This is what I'm talking about. Identity politics have got to go out the door. You could address racism within the framework of the ethical standard of practice. And if you weren't doing that, then you're responsible for the racism in your workplace. You know what I mean? Like, there were laws and rules before this. And I would like to say, you know, until Trudeau was in, Canada was a pretty chill place. In fact, I think the only people who were actually, that I ever seen discriminated against, were the Indigenous people growing up. Like, a lot of Canadians had a lot to say about them. And then all of a sudden we're doing Truth and Reconciliation. Things are going good. We have, you know, people aren't in fight or flight mode and have the ability to learn what happened to the Indigenous people and, you know, start to fix that situation. And instead, Trudeau comes in, makes the situation worse for them, lets unimaginable corruption happen in the reservations, okay? And now we've reversed everything, and some people actually are racist now, okay? when I first started talking out, did not see racism in the slightest on the right. Now I definitely do. Why? Because, it would be silly to not look at a time in history where, even when I hear about what happened in South Africa and why they're so okay with being so incredibly racist to white people, that is a time when white people went in and the government gave them special treatment, blah, blah, blah. And look at that division that's caused them now. And it's so funny because people will look at those white people and be like, they deserve what is happening to them because, they're colonizers, they came over, they stole the resources, and not see the unbelievable irony that people that come over here get better treatment than Canadians. Okay, like this is the thing, and who labels you racist? Who has been labeling you racist for the last however many years if you've had a problem with literal slavery happening in your country? The left. The left has actually not only called you racist for it, but been the ones perpetuating and allowing this slavery to happen in Canada. Nothing about it. They had a whole coalition for how many years, and they did nothing about, and knew in 2023 that the temporary foreign worker program was leading to actual slavery and did nothing about it. Okay? The way I see it is that these groups perpetuate the white supremacy that they don't want to happen so much. When you tell a kid right from the beginning that they have privilege and that they're better than people and that they believe in white supremacy, what do you think that does to people? I am lucky that I will never let this world take my heart either side. I could never hate conservatives when I was on the left. And now I could never hate the lefties, although they act very psychotic to me, okay? I would never be the type of person to wish death on someone. I would never be cheering on the death of a leftist, okay? I will, however, cheer on Rachel Gilmore getting fired because that was deserved, okay? But this identity politics nonsense is where you have lost everyone, because it is objective for us to be able to look back in time, see immigration working when Stephen Harper was in, see integration working when Stephen Harper was in, see many different cultures. You're going to Chinatown, okay? There was the gay villages in every single city. Like, we had different cultures in Canada and we all meshed and worked together. And all of a sudden there is massive divide because there is no integration. And if you call it out, you're racist, all of these different things, okay? We have never been so focused on race. Why do you think that is? Oh, because we keep perpetuating this nonsense, okay? Every single person brings something to the table, whether they're white, straight, and men, or women, gay, and I don't know. You know what I mean? But everybody should have a say in the NDP, okay? You shouldn't have to put diversity quotas to prove that you're diverse. You should just be diverse. I don't know how else to say that, but we should not need quotas to prove our diversity. If we're actually diverse, you would just be diverse. And I would just like to congratulate the Overton window for finally changing, because not everybody is being called racist anymore for bringing up the concerns of mass immigration, okay? And I would say a few months ago, last year, I was ripped to shreds for saying, oh, how about instead of just telling Canadian citizens they're not taking a poop on the beach, okay? How about you tell Canadian citizens, instead of gaslighting them, telling them it never happened, how about you put someone who can speak the language, okay, out there on the beach to make sure that this is not happening. Say that you're going to keep an eye on it and monitor it. But instead, they ripped this Indigenous woman to shreds because she was bringing up a problem of people defecating on the beaches, because where these people come from, that's normal. That's a normal thing for them to do, and they need to be. I don't care how it would be like if I went to another country and had to learn how they live, because that's the appropriate thing to do. And it amazes me that they could see that me going into another country and demanding things and doing things that were illegal would be, wrong and not okay. But as soon as someone does it to us, it's, you're racist for pointing that out. We're done with that. We're not wearing the racist card anymore. A lot of us, and you know what, like I said before, they should be grateful that a lot of us are saying, hey, we're not racist. We're not subscribing to this. You're not going to tell us what we think, okay? You're not going to try to convince us that we're racist when we've never even thought about it, okay? And what scares me the most, though, is that a lot of the left-leaning base does believe in Q theory, race theory, all of the divisive nonsense that goes on. We really don't have a common sense left-leaning party, in my opinion, in Canada whatsoever. A lot of them are driven by ideologies. And even when people say the Liberals are center, I don't think they're actually center, because their ideology has literally led us to being in poverty to save the planet. And that is not a right-leaning take whatsoever. But I also think that the Liberals are just on their own category. I don't think they're left or right. I think they're just embezzling our money, and that's about it. But a lot of these people are hardcore leftists that believe in R theory, Q theory, and pushing it on the kids, pushing it, in our systems, in our corporations, in our governments. Whereas, my approach is, okay, let's go back to listening to the ethical standard of practice, because, within those systems of ethical standards of practice, there were so many ways of fixing the problems that they say that we have in Canada. So let's go back to that model, because this is not working anymore. And a lot of us who have left the left, unless something happens to you, and even I've seen it in the summer where that woman was hit in the face, brutally over and over again, assaulted. And she said that she believes the guy should have been out on bail if he deserves to be out on bail. He was out on bail when he did that to her, by the way. So there are people that could have multitudes of issues, because I've always said there's a lot of Canadians struggling and having their eyes opened, and there is, but there's still a lot of sleeping Canadians. Obviously, we see that with Donald Trump being the number one reason why people voted in the last election. So my point is that as silly as this looks to us, this is the norm for the NDP. Okay, this is normal to the NDP, and they advocate for something like this. And in fact, I have seen cases where they think that the NDP party isn't left enough. Left enough? And so I'm just hoping that, I'm just saying, I don't think that the NDP switching approach is going to work for the NDP voter base, okay? Number one, even though we think it's silly, they don't care, okay? Number two, they better pick a strong candidate, because whoever that candidate is probably going to be the official opposition when we have our next election. 3, people did not hate Jagmeet Singh because of racism. I continuously see this every single day. If we hated Jagmeet Singh because of racism, then people would not have hated Justin Trudeau. People follow Justin Trudeau around with the Trudeau signs. You really think that the NDP holding up the Liberals didn't have anything to do with it and it was all racism? No, we hated Justin Trudeau more than Jagmeet Singh. So I don't know where this claim, this is the type of thing, though, guys. You guys got to stop doing this, because objectively, we were mad at every one of them. We were. And all that's to say is that I think that if they stick to their approach where they use divisive language, identity politics, and all of this nonsense to get where they need to be, they will have a lot of their support from their old party members again. But if they soften their approach and stop with this identity politics, they could even take it, just like I said, from an equality, ethics, standard of practice modality, but they won't. But they won't, because it might stop the old people from voting again. Who knows? I would love to hear your predictions. I have yet to hear a single person be nominated or talk about being nominated, and that is a problem. That is a problem. You guys should have been working on this. Are you kidding me? What is wrong with the NDP? How about you guys go and just get some stuff done? Okay, I would like to talk about this NDP race some more, but I don't even have candidates to talk about. So I will see you guys in the next one, and you tell me, do you guys think that the NDP will be the next opposition? I definitely do. So I hope that this is a really good leader. Obviously, we're not getting a Jack Layton back, but yeah, we could only be so hopeful that we could have a sitting parliament of level-headed leaders in each party. But that might be a little bit too much to ask for these days. So you guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!